Here we are on God to Rock, Keith, episode 12.
Hey, you got the title right that time, mate.
I did. I wrote it down. Well, I've had it tattooed on my... talking of tattoos, before we go any further, somebody shared something today where somebody had a tattoo done, and it was the Metallica logo, and underneath it said "Nothing Else Mattress." You're stuck with that, aren't you? It's not going anywhere.
No,
Not going anywhere.
nowhere.
So we've got a bit of a sort of special today. Keith done a little sort of road trip the other week and went down to interview Mick, which Keith will tell you about, and we're going to play that interview at the end of this. So it was Mick Brown, wasn't it?
Mick Brown, yeah.
Mick Brown. So Keith's going to talk. Actually, I'm not going to give the game away. Give us a clue, Keith.
Hello.
So who are we going to talk about today, Keith, if we don't know, that is?
Well, we're going to have a little chat about Mott the Hoople and Ian Hunter and my little lifelong journey.
It's a bit of a passion for you, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean...
when did it start?
1972. And, I mean, truth be told, I got a bit act off with them when I first heard them. Because I was about 14. I was a big T-Rex fan.
Yeah.
And all the young dudes has come out.
Ah, cool.
On the lines, I need a TV when I've got T-Rex.
Yeah.
I wasn't having that.
Yeah.
Little teeny bop of me. But it grew on me and it grew on me. I bought the album, all the young dudes, and then that was the beginning of the end, really. Been there forever. The only time I'd ever really heard them before was a couple of my mates, Phil Turner and Steve O'Neill, who were around the same sort of age, 13, 14, 15 or whatever. Steve O'Neill had a cousin who worked for Island Records.
All right.
Which was Mott's label,
yeah.
Pre all the young dudes. And his cousin invited them down to watch Mott the Hoople at the Royal Albert Hall. Now what's significant about that is that was a gig that actually got rock concerts banned from the Albert Hall.
Did it?
Because you got absolutely trashed by all these Mott the Hoople fans. I think Ian Hunter refers to it in Saturday gigs as if we bust a few seats, but it's just in fun. But I mean, yeah. I don't think the management of the Albert Hall saw it that way. So Phil and Steve went down, and they actually went to Island Studios, and I can remember they came back with like a clutch of albums on the Island label.
Yeah.
And there was and I don't know which album it was, but I know there was definitely a Mott the Hoople album in there. I remember going out of his house and he was playing them all. I think it was an album by Bronco, Jess Roden's band, and a few others. So that was where it kind of started. And then obviously, all the young dudes, and then what followed that on Mott, which was their groundbreaking, in a lot of people's opinions, groundbreaking album.
Yeah. Which would be your favourite album from the whole?
I think probably Brain Capers.
Right.
Which is one of the earlier ones. You'll find a lot of people like Mick Jones, for instance. He used to go to loads of Mott the Hoople gigs, and by his own admission, very rarely paid to get in.
Yeah.
Because what Mott would do, if they could see kids outside who hadn't got tickets, they'd open the back doors and let them in.
Yeah, superb.
And they also had this reputation as being one of the bands that were like a precursor to punk.
Right.
I don't always get a lot of this sort of stuff, but yeah, I mean, you listen to some of the lyrics and some of the songs. I mean, stuff on the Hoople, it's got quite a punk attitude regarding what they're writing about.
Yeah.
And they were no nonsense sort of blokes. I remember reading an article once, or it was a review of an album, and the reviewer described them as bricklayers in drag.
Did he?
Yeah, I mean that probably they weren't pretty boys; they were just ordinary blokes.
Yeah.
Sort of got into I don't say got caught up in the glam thing, but all of a sudden they went a million miles away from T-Rex and Bowie and all that. You know, they when Ariel Bender joined them in 73, he almost took it to another level. He really camped it up.
Yeah.
They were great band.
Where did Ariel Bender come from then? Was he?
God, his first band I know of him being in was Spooky Tooth.
Right, I don't know.
Luther Grosvenor.
Right.
And I think it was Lindsay DePaul who called him Ariel Bender.
Was
They were walking down some street and he kept smacking aerials on cars.
Ariel Bender.
They called him Ariel Bender. But I mean, they all had weird names. I mean, Pete Watts was Overend Watts.
Yeah.
Buffin, the drummer, Dale Griffin. Both sadly no longer with us. But Buffin ended up doing, I think it was producing live sets and sessions for Age of One for John Peel.
Oh, did he?
And then a few other people, yeah.
So he got into that sound
He got into
engineering,
sound, yeah,
wasn't
because then Mott split up. I mean, they formed Mott and they released a couple of albums. Then they became the British Lions. Hunter joined up with Mick Ronson for an album.
he? Yeah.
And
yeah.
on it went. But it was pretty much quality stuff.
When then in your opinion was the peak? Where was the highest point?
I think Mott. I think the album
Was it?
after All the Young Dudes. I mean, they were huge. I mean, was it five or six nights they sold out at the Euros Theatre on Broadway? No rock band had ever done that.
Yeah.
I mean, America I say America loved them. Parts of America loved them, like America does. It's such a vast country.
Yeah.
You know, if you read Ian Hunter's book, Diary of a Rock and Roll Star, which is a great piece of writing, you know, it's quite apparent in that they weren't big everywhere, and that sometimes touring the States in the early 70s was shambolic.
Yeah.
Great read. It's really honest. I mean, there's no, you know, he's not cracking it up to be something that it's not. It's hard graft. Doesn't always work. You might not get a sound check, and you might just blow it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, he's a great writer. Yeah, I love that book.
And he's so fucking well respected by other musicians. You know, when you listen to interviews to a lot of bands, you know, and they're talking about, you know, as Hunter being a big inspiration to them. And
well, he is. I mean, I mentioned Mick Jones. I mean, Mike Monroe had a Hanoi Rocks. Huge Mott the Hoople fan.
Yeah.
You look at the way they dressed. I mean, you look at was it Arthur Kane out of the New York Dolls?
Yeah.
I think they supported Mott in the States at some stage. Saw Overend Watts, the Mott the Hoople bass player, in his white thigh-length boots.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's wearing a pair.
Yeah.
So I think there was influences in all different sorts of ways. And I mean, I think the one person who's really spoken up for them, and for Ian Hunter and from what was Joe Elliott had a Def Leppard.
I've heard him quite a few times.
Yeah.
Talking
big
about that.
big fan.
Yeah.
Huge fan of Mott the Hoople. Huge fan of Ian Hunter. Did I ever tell you about the time I met him?
No, but yeah, you never have, Keith. You've met Joe Elliott.
I have met Joe Elliott. Yeah, it was it was one of those things, wasn't it?
And what did you talk about when you met Joe Elliott?
Mott the Hoople and Ian Hunter and Steve Clark.
Right.
You know, it was
Not a bad chat.
no.
That
It was one of the
So what was he like to meet then?
Great
Joe
bloke.
Elliott? 'Cause he
Absolutely.
comes across great on the radio, didn't he?
absolutely just a really down to earth bloke. Knows his music, but he's a fan.
Yeah.
I mean, we chatted about all this stuff because I think we're probably a similar sort of age, you know. So we grew up listening to the same sort of music. He's a huge fan of Sparks.
Right.
Big fan. He always he's just got a really good knowledge. And I was just sitting in this bar in Lanzarote, and I think it was called the Rock Cafe. Obviously, couldn't call it the Hard Rock Cafe, but there was this band who got a residency there from the UK, and I was sitting at the bar having a beer, and this bloke walks behind the bar, starts fiddling with the mixing desk,
Yeah.
and it was Joe Elliott.
Right.
So I remember he got up on the drums, because he's always fancied himself as a bit of a drummer.
Right.
And so I just shouted out, "Hey, play all the young dudes!" And he sort of raised his sticks and some sort of token acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And they played some song, and they finished their set and went for a break, and he went outside chatting to someone. So just ripped myself off a beer mat, took it outside, and we signed it. We had a chat. And I said, "Last time I saw you, you were on stage at the Dominion with Ian Hunter and Mick Ronson." I said, oh, were you a fan? Felt like saying, nah, I just thought I'd go there for something to do.
Yeah,
I said,
yeah,
I
yeah.
said, massive. And that was it.
Yeah.
Just spent all night chatting. And he gave me his phone number. A piece of paper. He he said, look, when you get home, he said, I'm going to be home whenever. Give me a ring. He said, I've got a tape of all this stuff Ian's given me, of unreleased Mott the Hoople stuff, which was unreleased then. I mean, it's since been officially released. He said, I'll do your copy.
Okay.
I said, really? He said, yeah. So it must have been, I said, well, look, I tell you what, I'll give you a ring in the new year. I'll let you get Christmas, New Year out the way and all that sort of stuff. And so I was in work and I'm going to give him a ring. I was bricking it, to be honest. It's a bit of a bit, you know. But he'd been so nice and so down to earth, and he bought me a beer, and he actually said, oh, why don't you come out for dinner tomorrow night? It's like that, because it was last night, it was in Lanzarote. I said, I've got to go, I'm working on. He said, well, cancel your flight. I said, I've got to go to work. And that was the only time you felt you hadn't quite got a grasp on, he might not have to go into work tomorrow, but I got to be back looking after a children's centre and that. So I gave him a ring, and I spoke to his wife, answered the phone, and I explained who I was. So yeah, she said, I remember you. I said, I think he might be in the studio. Well, I'll try and get him for you. So she said, look, I can't get hold of him. I said, well, look, he said he'd send me a tape of Mott the Hoople stuff. She said, yeah, no, I'm aware of that. She said, look, I'll get him, try and get him to ring you back. If he can't, what's your address? So I gave him the address and all the rest of it. So the day went by and went by, and about 5 o'clock, somebody came through. I was sitting working at a children's home. So Keith, somebody called Joe on the phone. I'm like, well, shit, right, okay. So I leg it out in the office, said, hello? Bloody female social worker called Joe. Oh, hi. Anyway, about 3 weeks later, I was at home, letterbox went, and there on the carpet, jiffy bag, opened it up, a letter from Joe Elliott and a C90 tape of Mott the Hoople songs.
Oh dear.
Was
this stuff on there you hadn't heard before?
Oh yeah, loads of it. And I'd even got, was it 2 miles from Heaven, which was released after they'd split up, and it was a cash-in, but there was loads of unreleased stuff on it. But there was stuff on this that I hadn't got. There wasn't even on that, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, good on you. You know, what a great bloke. He sent me a little note. I've still got it. And yeah, it was nice.
That's a great story, that, isn't
Yeah,
it?
fair play, like.
Yeah, and we have said this a lot on the podcast when we chatting, is that if you're into music and you get music, it doesn't matter what walk of life. Yeah, you're all in the same place, aren't you?
And I don't think it matters. As you say, what music? You can be soul, you can be punk, you can be indie, you can be rock and metal, jazz, whatever you want. But I think it's a passion, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So back to the Hunter thing. So I never actually got to. So I didn't ever get to see Mott the Hoople in their heyday.
Yeah.
Sent off for tickets for the tour in '73. They were playing Liverpool Stadium. We didn't get to, and that's when Queen supported them.
Yeah. And
didn't get tickets. Sold out. So we ended up going to see the Faces. So it was about '77 when I eventually got to see him.
And where was that at?
I think it was the Manchester Free Trade Hall on the Overnight Angels tour, and the Vibrators supported him.
Was it Vibrators?
I mean, all the punk bands loved him. You know, I think he produced Generation X, produced Hanoi Rocks. Not saying they were punk, but they were in, they were in that sort of ballpark. And he just kept releasing albums. I mean, his first album is an absolute Stonewall classic. I mean, a lot of the stuff I think he'd written when he was with Mott the Hoople, but I'm not even sure it could have been bettered, because Mick Ronson's playing on it is it's on another level. And then he released the Overnight Angels album, and then I should have made a list actually of the Old Room which they released. I'm not even going to try and remember it, but then I think it was You're Never Alone with the Schizophrenic, which again I think is one of his best best
Yeah.
albums. And he kept releasing them. He ended up doing an album probably mid-80s that Mick Jones from The Clash produced,
Right.
Short Back and Sides.
Yeah.
Totally different from anything he'd ever done. The sound effects, there was weird stuff on it. I think Top of Heaven was on it as well. And I didn't like it. I thought, what the hell's going on here? But now it's one of my favourite albums that he's done. One of those things, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it all went a bit quiet. Was it probably late 80s? I don't know. But it went quiet and he didn't do much for a few years. And then he released an album with some guys from Sweden and from the UK who were in a band called The Boys. It's a guy called Daryl Bath who actually played with him for a number of years. Casino Steel, Glenn Matlock
Right.
was
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
And was John playing on it? I'm not sure. Anyway, that came out on CD, and it was and he didn't write all the songs and he didn't sing on all the songs, but it was it was a great album. It's one of my favourite albums that he's done. It was called Ian Hunter's Dirty Laundry. And I don't think he toured it in this country, if he toured it at all. And it's just had a release on vinyl. A couple of tracks missing because I obviously couldn't fit them all on, but it's an absolute belting album. Absolutely love it. And then he started again. He just had a touring, he put a band together. I think he had Steve Holly on drums, who's been his long-time drummer, Daryl Bath on guitar, Trevor Francis on bass, Paul Cuddiford on guitar, and Ian Gibbons from the Kinks
Right.
on keyboards. And I saw Paul Cuddiford earlier in the year at a Ramp Band gig, which was Ian's band minus Ian. And I had a chat with him, as you do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
guys are quite happy to have a natter.
Yeah.
And that was quite interesting because I tell you who else was there. There was Bobby Gillespie
Right.
watching them, and Rich Hall, the American
Yeah,
comedian,
yeah, yeah.
who got up and did an Ian Hunter poem off the
Yeah.
first album. So yeah, and he's just released another album now. Oh God, I've gone blank. Oh God.
No, you can't do that to us now, but just when you were peaking, Keith. We'll
Yeah.
come back to that. There is one question. How long ago was it when we saw him playing Wrexham?
Central Station.
Yeah,
I
that's going to be
reckon.
10, 11 years.
No,
isn't
it's longer than that. I'm
Is
trying to
it?
think now. I reckon it's around 16 years ago
it? Right,
because Ben was with us.
yeah.
I reckon that's 15, 16 years ago. Because I think he's only played Wrexham once. But that was Central Station.
Yeah,
He's played the William Aston Hall.
right,
That was about 5 or 6 years ago.
right. Did you go to that one as well?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many,
Defiance Part One.
Defiance
Sorry,
Part
that's
One.
the album.
So how many times have you seen him then over the
Oh, I
years?
don't know.
Lost count.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw him was in Liverpool. It's got to be 20.
Yeah,
But you know, when he was on if you like the comeback trail, I mean, he played Alexander's in Chester.
did he?
I was like sitting in this room.
Yeah,
It's small. I'm sitting in the front seat, arms folded, legs crossed, just watching Ian Hunter.
it's fucking mad anyway.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
He played the Pavilion at Rill. He went everywhere. I saw him play, and it's still one of my favourite ever gigs. I went to Stoke to see him, be around the same sort of time. He played in a pub called the Wheat Sheaf,
Did he?
and they had like a separate room to put bands on, and that was only small, and it was an absolute snorter of a gig.
So what would you get? 100 people in there, 200 people?
I don't know, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't getting many watching him when he was on the comeback, as I call
Yeah.
it, this sort of comeback.
Yeah, yeah.
But it grew and it grew, and I mean, he's probably released, off the top of my head, 5 or 6 albums in the last 10 or 12 years.
Yeah. Still as good as...
Yeah, they're great. They're
Yeah.
really good. I mean, he's a great writer. He's a phenomenal writer. You know, and I just think he probably doesn't quite get the credit he deserves.
Yeah. Well, look, he's got to have stock, or you wouldn't have the likes of Ronno playing with him.
I know.
And,
I know.
You've got.
I mean, Earl Slick played on the Overnight Angels album.
Didn't you see him walking down a beachfront or something at Ronno? And
Yeah. I'd gone down to visit my sister. She was living in between Guildford and Horsham, and we went to Worthing for the day, and it was after the '89 tour, GOR012 tour, and I'd seen them at Rock City and the Manchester International, and I'd gone down to see my sister. And she said, "Oh, fancy doing it?" So let's go to the seaside. Nice sort of late winter's day and that. Let's go to Worthing. And so we went down to Worthing and we're walking along the promenade. I saw these people in the distance, and just flashes through your mind. It looked like Mick Ronson, that. And then they were about 60 yards away from me, and it was onto Mick Ronson and a group of blokes.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
what's the fucking chances of
yeah,
that?
and I'm thinking, what's going on? So I went over to him, so I shook his hand and all the rest of it, like totally blown away. It was before the days of phones and phone cameras, and you didn't carry a camera. And he had a little chat, nothing major. He's, you know that he's, if he doesn't want to talk to you, he said, thanks for coming and all the rest of it. Now, sling your up type of thing. But they were just wandering around Worthing. And it was weird, because when I sort of had this sort of chat with Joe Elliott and all the rest of it, I was telling him about that. And he said, oh, he used to have a place down there.
Right.
He reckons. So he still had a lot of friends in Worthing, and he'd go back and see them. And I put something on the Facebook page the other day, an Ian Hunter and Mott the Hoople one, and somebody said they'd actually played Worthing on that GOR012 tour.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's another good album too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they're all, I mean, I love them all.
I'm going to have to start getting into it, because it's a band that I've skirted with, and you know the tracks and you've heard them, but they're never a band that I sit down and say, right, I'm going to listen to an album.
And you can't, I mean, I've got so many bands like that.
Yeah.
That you never really sort of think, how did I miss out on them?
Yeah.
You do, because you can't. And especially when you're young, you probably have enough money for a record once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Back in the
70s. Yeah.
It wasn't just sort of like, go out and buy that, go out and buy that, go out and buy that. And I was bloody hopeless with money.
Yeah.
So I'd go out, instead of thinking, no, I'll wait 3 weeks and I'll buy an album, I'd go out and buy a single. So just so I could buy a record.
Well, you had to, didn't you? Because you couldn't wait.
No, you couldn't.
Wait 3 weeks.
No, you couldn't.
Yeah. So where would have been the best tour? What, for you, when was the best live performance? You mentioned the pub gig there, which you said was...
They're all pretty decent. I mean, I remember seeing him in Austin in Texas when I was over South by Southwest in 2005, and they did a free show at the something like the Lakeside Shores Amphitheatre, something rather like that, and that was really good. Just nice to see him.
Yeah.
In it playing in the States, and again he went down really well. Obviously, a lot of people knew his stuff. But I don't know. I mean, the one of the Wheat Chief was good. I saw him at the Dominion with Mick Ronson, and that was good. You don't see many bad ones by these guys. No. It's a bit. It's like clockwork.
Yeah.
He's done it for years. Because he's 84.
Yeah.
And he's got another album due to come out.
Do you know? It's great that, because I saw Graham Parker last month.
That's right. You did. You went to Manchester, didn't you? Yeah.
And we have talked about this. It's a bit slower than they used to be and stuff, but they've still got presence. They still walk on stage regardless.
Yeah, I know.
They're still fucking masters of their instrument.
They are, aren't they?
It's just great to watch, and
they don't lose it, do they?
No, and they're tight, and their confidence is amazing, isn't it?
I know. And these guys, I just think it's great the way they keep popping up.
Yeah.
Most people are retired at 65.
Yeah. These
guys, no, let's go and do a tour. Let's go and do a few gigs. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
If I thought 200 people wanted to come and listen to me doing something, go on, I'll do that.
Yeah. And I watched the other week KK on KK Priest, when I'm seeing him. And again, they're all cracking on, these guys, but they're just loving it. You can just see it on their face. You're born to do it, aren't you?
Yeah,
God's put you on your earth to be
I think so,
isn't it?
No, I'd say he's got another album coming out. I'm guessing it's probably going to be next year now, Defiance Part 2. Because I mean, it was quite interesting in Defiance Part 1. If you remember when we were talking to Crusher the other week, he mentioned a guy called Ross Halfin.
Yeah.
Let's call him Gross Halfwit. Ross Halfin put the bands to all the Defiance Part 1 has got a lot of it's all guests.
Right.
Pretty much. Slash is on it, Ringo Starr's on it.
Yeah.
No end of people on playing on all the different songs. And I think was Joe Walsh on it? No, I can't remember now. Anyway, maybe not. Maybe that was another album I'm thinking of by somebody else. And Ross Halfin put it all together.
Right.
He got in touch with all these people because it was recorded during COVID. So I'm guessing Ian Hunter's put his bits down, played the guitar, the piano, done the vocals, and Ross Halfin's just been in touch with people. Hey, how'd you fancy playing on a track on Ian Hunter's album?
Yeah.
Aye, all right. I'll tell you who else is on it. It's Todd Rundgren.
Really?
Yeah, Todd's on it. And they've just recorded, because all these blokes have their own studios.
Yeah.
So, and that's how they've done it.
And when's that album out?
That's out. Part 1's out. I say Part 2's coming out next year, I expect. And I've seen photos of him with, is it Neil Smith or Dennis Dunaway out of Alice Cooper's band?
Right.
Probably one of them isn't around
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
So, but yeah, so there's again he's getting people on it, and they're all. And I think that's great that people want to do that sort of thing. I mean, I got an album by a guy called Ray Wiley Hubbard, who's great. And he's got all sorts. I think that's the one Joe Walsh is on.
Yeah.
And the first track on the album has got Chris Robinson doing backing vocals from the Black Crowes, Ringo on drums, and Joe Walsh on guitar.
That's not a bad lineup, is
It's
it?
not, is it? And every song again has got these guest musicians on.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great. It's almost like they're paying some sort of homage to these people who've been around a little while.
Yeah. And
And I've seen Ray Wiley up, and I mean he's great. So I'm in Nashville, and it's brilliant.
I've got to admit, Keith, I'm jealous of the fact that you saw him at Ronald.
A few times. A few times.
Great.
I mean, when we saw him at Rock City, I was leaning against the barrier.
Yeah.
Mick Ronson was as far from me as you are now.
Because he's one of my favourite guitarists.
Yeah, I mean, what a great player.
Yeah.
But when you look at all the young dudes, I mean, I think he did the string arrangements on Sea Diver.
Right.
I think him and Bowie produced it. I mean, he's a great producer.
Yeah.
So not only was he a great guitarist, but he had, I think he was a classically trained guitarist.
Yeah.
But he's just had so much talent.
Yeah.
I
Talented.
went to see Ginger the other week.
Yeah.
And he played on the, I think, Earth versus the Wildheart. He produced that.
Right.
And played on a track on it.
Yeah. Because a lot of people just think Ronald from that Bowie period.
Well, they do, don't they?
Yeah.
'Cause he was with Bowie for a few years.
Yeah.
I think probably late 60s, because he was on Hunky Dory, which I think is 1970. But I've got a box set of Bowie at the Beeb, and he's on a lot of those tracks.
Yeah. I've got that same.
Tracks that you're not that familiar, if you're not as familiar with. And I think he did more for Bowie than anyone actually realises.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just gave it that sound and his guitar playing.
Yeah, he's just fucking legend, isn't he?
Yeah.
Rock legend. So for us who don't know sort of Hunter as well, where do we start?
First album.
First album.
It's solo stuff, without doubt the first album. Then I'd go with Never Alone with the Schizophrenic.
Right.
And then dive in.
Yeah. find your own way through the rest
find
of
your
it.
own. Mott the Hoople, I think I'd probably start with Brain Capers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great
So tell me about the Mick interview then.
That was cool. That was really good. It was quite interesting actually, because we'd been in touch with Mick, and I sent him a message saying that we'd got tickets for the Wildhearts. For Ginger Wildheart. Yeah. And is there any chance we could have an interview with you for our podcast? And then we turned up there, and because you couldn't make it because you were
flooded.
You were mopping up, of course.
Yeah,
yes, we'd had a shower or 5, and so I've turned up there, and Mick actually thought I wanted to interview Ginger. She said, well, that would be really nice, but in actual fact, it's you we want to interview. So, I mean, lovely bloke.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that's shows how much humility Mick has.
Yeah,
He couldn't believe we actually wanted to interview him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I first came across Mick, I think it's 9 years ago.
14, 9
Two-
years
sorry,
ago.
2014,
Oh,
9
right.
years ago. And I was in Austin, and we were watching this band called the Howling Brothers,
Right, yeah.
and got chatting to him after and said, we're coming over. Can you, I said, oh fine, if you're short of some gigs, give me a shout. I might have a few little local venues you could play at. So they said, oh look, contact our agent. And they gave me his, well, they must have messaged me his email. So that was it. I contacted them when I got home. They said, oh wow, didn't think you'd be in touch. Most people don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, they say, oh yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that. And I said, no, if I'm going to do something, I'll try. And the email address they sent me was for Mick. Had a Mott the Hoople
Yeah.
song in it as title.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, this is a bit. So anyway, so I emailed him and said I can do this and do that. And, you know, I can try and get these boys 5 or 6 gigs from North East Wales and Shropshire and that. So that would be really brilliant. Thank you very much. And I said, so I mentioned the song in the email address, and he said, oh yeah, he said, I'm Ian Hunter's agent. And I'm like, shit.
Hello.
And you know what he said to me? He said, sort of the gigs out, he checked out, he said, that'll be really good, thank you very, very much. If there's ever any shows I'm putting on, just let me know, I'll put you on the guest list. And I think I did it once.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to pay for me gigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he put me on the guest list for Hunter's show at the Royal Northern College of Music, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, he's a lovely guy. Again, it's like, you know, we were talking to him about the Mott the Hoople reunion. And he said, just like we were all 16 again.
Yeah. No, look, yeah, because I
Yeah, so I didn't actually get to see them till 2009 on the reunion tour.
Yeah.
And they did, I think they were booked in for 6 or 7 nights at the Hammersmith Odeon, or whatever it's called. But then they announced they were doing 2 warm-up shows at the Blake Theatre in Monmouth.
Right.
I think 432 capacity. And we got tickets for the Saturday night.
Nice.
And I was late.
Yeah, we.
They'd already started, absolutely gutted. I'd waited, not even going to try and calculate how many years I'd waited. I missed the intro. I'm thinking of Mott, when they come on, they play, is it Jupiter from the Planets?
Oh, yeah.
And I love that. I mean, I've got bootlegs at home of Mott the Hoople, vinyl bootlegs and all. And I just love that
Opening bit.
that opening bit. It's same. You hear it, I think, on Mott Live.
Yeah.
And it's just, wow. And they were great. They were brilliant. Yeah, and then they did another reunion tour about 2013, which is probably, actually being honest, maybe won't come back too far.
Right.
But then they did, a few years ago, the 1974 lineup, which had Ariel Bender and Morgan Fisher in, obviously Ian Hunter, and then the Ramp Band, which is Ian's
Yeah.
band. And that was really good.
And where was that at? At GC?
That was in the Academy in Manchester.
Right. Yeah. Not
Yeah,
bad
Manchester
venue.
Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were good. Yeah, very good.
Well, shall we hand over to
Yes.
interview with Mick then?
Yeah, even though I've told you what's in it.
Yeah. Well, I know, but we'll hear it from the horse's mouth.
We
now.
will indeed. Which is funny you should say that, because Ian Hunter has a thing on his internet, on his webpage called The Horse's Mouth,
Oh,
where
is
you
it?
can send him a question and he may or may not answer it.
Yeah.
And then they're all published once a month.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's quite cool.
Called The Horse's Mouth. There you are.
Straight from the
So,
horse's mouth.
there we
Well,
go.
let's get over to Mick then.
Right. Good evening, afternoon, morning, whenever it is you'll be listening to this podcast. With me tonight is Mick Brown, a booking agent from Brighton, I believe, Mick.
I certainly am.
Who I first came across actually it was 9 years ago this month that a band called the Howling Brothers came over.
Yeah.
And through one way or another I managed to put some local gigs on for them around North East Wales, courtesy of Mick. And what struck me mostly originally was when I saw Mick's email address, which I won't disclose obviously over here, it had the title of a Mott the Hoople song in, which immediately, being a massive fan, sort of raised my curiosity, and turned out that Mick was working with Ian Hunter. So previous to that, Mick, what were you up to? I obviously have a rough idea of what you've been doing the last 9 years. So where did it all start? You're promoting bands and booking bands and going out with bands. Where did it start?
It started, we did fan club conventions. That's where it started. We did a Mott the Hoople fan club convention, a Sweet fan club convention, and an Ian Gillan fan club convention.
Yeah.
And John Fiddler, who did the Mott convention, was complaining that he couldn't get gigs, and he was brilliant, so we thought, give it a go, can't be that difficult, and started getting John gigs, and it just sort of moved on from there.
As simple as that. Yeah. I saw John Fiddle with Medicine Head in Wrexham, believe it or not, about 1974.
Yeah.
73 maybe.
Yeah.
And Thin Lizzy were due to be on with them.
Okay.
And I think Whiskey in the Jar had just gone massive, and I think they had a bigger fish to fry that night.
That's it.
So they went out and fried it.
Yeah.
So you started with John Fiddler, and he's still around?
John's still around,
I see he's just on Facebook.
Yeah, he's just recorded a new Medicine Head album, and I think he's moved back to the UK now. He was living in Phoenix for a while.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, very much still going.
Brilliant. So where did it lead from? So how long ago was that then?
That was 1999-2000.
So you've been at it a while, haven't you?
Yeah, and then we started doing T-shirts for Ian Hunter, and that just led to booking shows for Ian Hunter.
So when did you start booking shows for Ian?
2006, 2007.
Right,
I would think. Yeah.
So he was well on the way to the, if you like, what I class as his almost like a comeback, wasn't it?
Yeah. He was doing good business. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I can remember. Well, he released the Dirty Laundry album.
Yes, it was after that. Yeah.
And it was after that. And then he went out and toured with. Well, he had Darryl back on guitar, Paul Cuddaford.
Yeah.
Then he had England's most expensive bass player, Trevor Francis, or first £1 million footballer, as you used to refer to him. And Ian Gibbons.
Ian Gibbons was in, and Steve Holly.
Yeah. And I can remember seeing them in Alexander's in Chester.
Okay.
Which is a smaller venue than this.
Yeah.
And it was like sitting watching him in your front room.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, one of the best gigs I ever saw was watching them at a place in Stoke, which was a pub called the Wheat Chief.
Yes, I was there. Yeah.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I don't know if something had gone on, but I can remember they came on stage, and he just said, "Okay," I remember it clear as day. "Are we united?" I don't know. I mean, they played an absolute storming set.
Right. Yeah.
And for me, that was probably as good as I've seen him.
Yeah.
And I've seen it a few times, as you know.
Yeah.
So you work with Ian. You obviously we'll maybe come on to a bit of that a bit later from Mott the Hoople. So what other bands have you been working with?
Dan Baird. Off the back of that, me and my then partner, who's funny enough flying in from Nashville tonight to see the show, put a wish list together of who we wanted to work with, and at the top of both our lists was Dan Baird. Right. So he was doing an internet dating thing with a lady from Nashville who turned out to be a keyboard player who knew Dan. He flew over, had a meeting with Dan. Dan came over, and we booked him for 20 years till he retired.
Yeah, but I can remember we saw him at Llandudno Junction.
That's right.
With Mick Ralph's band.
Yes.
I remember seeing you there.
Yeah.
And then around the same time as I managed to get a few gigs for the Howling Brothers, you asked me if I could put a show on for the Bluefields.
That's right. Yeah.
Which was again in the sun in Llangollen.
Yeah.
And my son Ben, his band supported them that night.
Okay.
And what impressed me. I mean, the pub didn't publicise it. It was a Sunday night.
Yep.
There was Ben's band, me and about 4 mates, and about 5 locals.
Sounds about right.
And I was so angry with it because I thought you've got Dan Baird, you've got Warner Hodges. What was the drummer's name? Ben from Nashville. Played with Ryan Adams.
He's gone back to Ryan Adams. Brad Pemberton. Yeah.
And
Joe Blanton. Yeah. No, they were a great band.
You know what?
They were a great band.
They came on at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And they went off at 11.
Yeah.
And you would have sworn they were playing at Monsters of Rock.
Yeah.
Or Download.
Yeah.
And they gave it absolute.
Yeah. Well, all those guys don't need to do it. Financially, they don't need to do it. They do it because they like playing with each other.
Yeah.
And, they have a good time.
I mean, I before I left, I actually apologised to Dan Baird. I said, "Mate, I'm really sorry there weren't many people here."
Yeah.
Shrugged his shoulders.
Yeah, just play to the people that turn up,
Yeah,
not the people
absolutely.
that don't turn up. Yeah.
Absolutely. So then, like, of course, I guess, was it 2009 Mott the Hoople reunion?
Yep.
Which for me was like, yes, at last. 'Cause I remember I sent off the tickets in 1973 for the Mott that'd be their last UK tour.
Yeah.
Didn't get them. I think I was Queen supported.
Yep.
Managed to get tickets for the Faces, so it was a
There you
reasonable
go.
swap.
That's not too bad.
But then this happened in 2009. So how did all that come around?
It was just they socially started seeing each other. Various members would turn up at each other's gigs. They started talking, and I think whatever had happened, in the 70s to make them decide they didn't want to play together, was too far in the past.
Time had healed a little bit. Yeah.
And they started talking about doing it, and then we put it together, and it was way more successful than I think any of us
unbelievable,
thought.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it 7 nights at Hammersmith?
No, 5 nights at Hammersmith, and then we did 2
To
nights.
Blake Theatre in Monmouth. I went to the Saturday night.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'd waited all those years to see him.
Yeah.
I'll see him. And I missed half the first song.
There you go. Yeah.
Which was typical, really. Couldn't get my mate out of Weatherspoons. But again, well, the people I've been talking to you about earlier.
Yeah.
From London, about 4 or 5 of them had come up for it, and it was a great night.
It was great. It was one of those moments where for all of us, for people of our generation, they were the band.
Yeah.
And to have people fly in from all around the world.
Did you ever get to see them back in the day?
No.
But no.
Never did. So that was the first time.
Yeah,
and
so it was a big deal for you.
Yeah.
Let alone putting it on,
Oh, yeah.
being involved as you were.
Yeah.
So what were they like to work with?
Marvellous. Absolutely mad as hatters. And you didn't stop laughing the whole
Really?
time. Yeah, sometimes it was through frustration. They'd do things, and other times it was just you looked at them and you realised you were in the same room as Ian Hunter and Mick Rouse and Pete Watts and
Buffin and Buffin wasn't great at the time, unfortunately. But
it was one of those, but it was great, and everybody sort of fell into line behind it. When the shows were announced, suddenly they started getting, I think it was Mojo gave them a Lifetime Achievement Award, and Classic Rock gave them an award. And it was great to see because it was so well deserved.
Yeah,
and I think
huge interest in it.
Yeah, at the end of the year review, I'm not sure whether it was Classic Rock or Mojo, where they said obviously the big event of the year was the Zeppelin reunion, and they said, but at Mott the Hoople there were grown men crying, and there weren't grown men crying at Zeppelin, and it was that emotional. They were brilliant.
Absolutely. I mean, my partner came with me, and she'd never really heard much of Mott the Hoople. She's a bit younger than I am. Her bag was all 80s indie stuff.
Yeah.
The Smiths and Echo and the Bunnymen. That's fine. And I think we were in about the 9th, 10th row as you look at the stage to the left. And the encore or towards the end, people start getting up and I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm right down the front. And she said it was just so wonderful to just see you.
Yeah.
However old I was then.
Yeah.
Just
you go back to being a 16-year-old.
You do.
Yeah.
Down the front.
It was wonderful.
And I had a crappy old phone and I took some photos, and Overend saw me taking one. I put it on the Mott Hoople Facebook page. I found it on my phone the other week, and he's just come to the edge of the stage and given me a big grin.
Yeah.
And you see,
they loved it. They had fun, and all the politics that had dogged them in the past went away for a while. You know. Yeah.
And so recently you've been on tour with Warner Hodges and the Super Suckers.
Absolutely.
And then back out with them again.
Back out with them tomorrow. Yep.
Wow. So you lead a busy life, don't you?
I'm blessed. I lead a life that I'm fortunate that my family support me in doing what I like to do.
They'd have to, wouldn't they, really?
Yeah.
Because,
and I love it. I mean, myself and Warner were joking when, just before we were both, myself, Warner, and Maura Magellan from the Satellites.
Yeah.
Became grandfathers within a few weeks of each other, and it was grandchildren. Have you got any?
No.
Okay.
No, you keep it that way,
looking
Ben.
at Ben. Yeah.
You keep it that way for the time being.
But grandchildren are the best gift in the world, and we sat there and we were having this discussion, and Warner said, I never want to tour again. I'm just complete now. 2 days later, hey man, when are we going out again? You know, it's
in the blood, isn't it?
It's what we do. It's what we do. Yeah.
So what are your plans for the future? Obviously, we're here with Ginger, but
yeah. So next year's a busy year. We've got lots of stuff lined up with Ginger, which I think will surprise a lot of people. Warner's back. We're doing a tour I shouldn't really say who it's with because
No,
but,
it's fine.
but it's that's going to be an interesting tour. I've got a country singer called Jason Eady coming back over. Carol, who's supporting Ginger tonight, is going out on her first headline tour. Busy year. It's,
So they're all on, as you put it, all on your books, are they? Or however you phrase it, or however it works.
Got a bunch of new people that I haven't worked with before, which keeps it fresh, and
So and obviously you can't be with them all the time.
No, I only
So how does that
really
work
tour
when they go out on the road.
It's fine. They've all got tour managers.
Right, okay,
I've been with Warner for 20 odd years.
Part of the family.
The Ginger thing, I just want to see the show every night. I've got to be honest. So I'm a fan, and if Ian sorts himself out and comes back, I'd love to do that one more time.
Yeah, obviously.
It's great.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I never actually got to see the Wildhearts. Going back to Ginger, I went to the Tiv in Buckley to watch them, and it sold out.
Yep.
Just didn't think it would sell out.
Yeah.
And when they were pay on the door, I picked up the first 3 albums. Oh God, I think as they came out, and I got Don't Be Happy, Just Worry on vinyl, and then I got Fuck and World versus the Wildhearts.
Yeah.
And of course Mick Ronson produced
Yes,
that
he
one,
did.
didn't he? I think.
Yeah, and Ginger just showed me the other day. It's funny how these things work. We were talking about it, and he said, "Have you seen the video?" And I said, "What video?" He said, "Oh, someone's unearthed video footage of Ronson in the studio with them."
Yeah.
Which is priceless. I mean,
Wow. Yeah.
They are.
Because he played on the album, didn't he?
He did.
Played on.
It was one of the last things he played on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they are, along with the Ian Hunters and the Dan Beds, they are people that change people's lives,
Yeah.
and that's why it's great to work with them. It's something that goes beyond music. I don't know how to describe
Well, something.
it.
I mean, obviously coming here to see him tonight, and I sort of dug out I put them on the other two. But obviously, I played the vinyl at home last night just to refresh my memory, and I'd probably had that out about 8 months ago playing it. Something had come up. I'd seen something. Christ, I've got that. I'm going to have to give it a listen. And what amazed me about the Wildhearts was they could quite musically aggressive.
Yes.
But fantastic melodies.
Yeah. That's the whole thing with them, that they, and him in particular as a songwriter, he can just take bits from all over the place and bring them into a song.
I think if you just listen to the music and just cut the vocals out, you think, no, this is going to be growly.
Yeah.
If you want.
Yeah.
But then you get these magnificent vocals and
backing
great
vocals.
melodies.
Yeah. No, he's probably the most talented, in my opinion anyway, he's probably the most talented thing to come out of the UK in the last 35, 40 years.
Hell of a following. I know he played in Central Station years ago.
Yeah.
And he did an early show there, and it hadn't been publicised because we were in a pub called, it was a basement bar called the Talbot. We used to have quite a few bands on back in the day, and he walked in at about 8 o'clock, half 8, with a group of lads.
Yeah.
I said, what's he doing here? He's just been playing in Central Station.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know. But we're looking forward to the show tonight.
You'll love it. It's great. It's a great show.
Yeah. And let's hope Ian comes back and does something.
Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, the new album is fantastic, and it's such a shame that he can't get out on the road and
There's another one
promote it.
coming out as well, isn't there?
Yes.
Defiance Part 2.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting, to say the least.
He doesn't do anything that's bad. So he
doesn't, does he?
There's a quality control there. It's just, again, he's an amazing human being to still be turning out that body of work.
Superb, isn't it?
Brilliant.
It really.
Again,
I think it's the respect he's got amongst other musicians.
Absolutely, and it shows by the people that are queuing up to play on the albums.
Because years ago, it was before Ben was born, I was in Lanzarote.
Yep.
And Joe Elliott was in the bar.
Yeah.
And I got chatting to him.
Yeah.
And we just kept chatting about Mott the Hoople. And because I guess we're similar ages.
Yeah.
And just about the music we grew up on. And what a fantastic bloke.
He's an amazing ambassador.
And he said, look, I've got loads of Mott the Hoople stuff at home.
Yeah.
That's never been released.
Yeah.
Which then it hadn't been. He said, here's my phone number.
Yeah.
Joe Elliott's given me his phone number on a whim.
Yeah.
He said, give me a ring in a month when I'm home.
Yeah.
And I'll send you the... And he did.
Yeah.
Phoned him up. He didn't take the call.
Yeah.
His wife then took the call. I said, look, I feel really cheeky. He said, no, it's fine. I remember you.
Yeah.
I give him your address. 3 weeks later, the jiffy bag dropped him with Matt at home.
Yeah.
With a tape which it was back in probably 29, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And a little note.
Yeah.
Apologising for it taking so long. I mean, just made up.
He's a huge music fan. I mean, he's been very generous to us. We've been lucky. When we did the Sensational Alex Harvey band, he wrote the sleeve notes. He's a fan, you know.
Yeah.
He's we share a love of the heavy metal kids.
Yeah.
And,
Gary Holden, yeah.
Yeah, you know, he's
Yeah. I was quite touched by I bought Dirty Laundry CD when it came out. But to get it on vinyl now,
I think it is. Yeah.
And all, it's a great album.
Yeah,
I think it's underrated in Ian Hunter's back
very
catalogue,
underrated. Yeah.
For me, it's one of his, and I know he doesn't sing on all they're not all his songs, and you've got Daddle and Honest John playing Casino Steel, all of it. But the notes Michael Monroe wrote on the inner sleeve, just like
Well, again, Mutual Appreciation Society.
Absolutely, and it's huge.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know you need to get going. You've got
Thank you,
you've got the merch desk to look after.
Yeah.
So just love to thank you for the time you've given us.
Thank you, Keith.
And we'll enjoy the gig.
Yeah, you will. Take care, man.
Thanks very much.
Thanks,
Mate.
man.